Shalom. Welcome to Hebrew Literacy. Today we will be continuing with our directed Hebrew immersion in the book of Exodus, chapter 28, verse 30. Verse 30 is pretty long, and it has a satum marker at the end, meaning it's the end of an ancient section. Now, today's focus, we're trying to do this twice a week, will be auditory learning. So this means that if you like, you could sit there with a Hebrew Bible in your hands. Maybe you like the feeling of that more. Or you can close your eyes. You can watch the road if you're driving. Whatever the case may be, just please make it an active auditory learning. Some people, when they switch to auditory learning, they become just more passive. And they'll be doing other things. Maybe their mind will wander. Try to keep your mind focused on what we're talking about. Think about the Hebrew words as I mention them. When I pause and give a delay, try to come up with the English first, if you can, before I do. This will really help you to master the text. Adonai Adonenu ma'adir shimcha, ken yehi ratzon ki hayom hazeh kol talmidai yihyu tov ba'einecha, tishlachna et rochacha עליהם אדוני. אנחנו רוצים לראות את פניך. לכל הדברים האלה אנחנו נברכך בזכות ישוע המשיח. All right. So I will just put that I'll put the chapter on the screen. You don't have to look at the screen, but I'm just going to, just for the purposes later, there we go. Okay, so you don't have to watch the screen. It's here if you want, but I will not be doing any notes on the screen. Nothing to break you out of the auditory learning, all right? Exodus chapter 28, verse 30. And it says, V'natato, v'natato. The verb is natan, meaning to give, to set, to place, prescribe. Natanta, in ancient Hebrew, natanto became natat-ta, the noon assimilated. So natat-ta, the ta reminds us of atta, you. So natat-ta is you gave, you prescribed, you set, you placed. And then we have a vav conversive at the beginning that is going to change that aspect. So ve natato, so you shall place, so you shall set. El, that's Aleph Lamed, El, unto. Choshen hamishpat, and those two words are a construct chain. So choshen, that's breastplate, the breast piece of ha mishpat. So the ha means the, and mishpat is justice, sometimes righteousness. Now, because that last word is ha, it's definite, the whole chain is definite. So choshen hamishpat is the choshen of hamishpat, the breastplate of the righteousness, or the breastplate of the justice. So the breastplate of justice, et haorim, et, that's Aleph Tav, the definite direct object marker. Ha, of course, that is the. Urim, Aleph, Shurik, which is a Vav, Resh, Ur, Yod Mem, Urim, Urim. Usually this word is not translated. Traditionally, we'll just say the Urim. There's a lot of mystery behind what these things are. So the Urim, Ve'et, and definite direct object marker, et, hatumim, hatumim. The tumim, also we usually don't translate. These objects are usually presented together, right? They were used for determining what Hashem's will was regarding a certain question that the priest might pose or a king might pose. So let's complete that part again. Let's start over. Try to answer before I do. Venatato. Of course, from the verb natan. Venatato. So you shall set or place el choshen hamishpat. El, towards choshen hamishpat, the breastplate or the breastpiece of justice. Et haorim ve'et hatumim, the urim and hatumim, the tumim. Okay, continuing on. Vehayu, vehayu. The verb is haya, hey, yod, hey. And because it's a verb that ends in a hey, a lot of times that final hey will disappear in various conjugations of the verb. The oo at the end means they. So hayu means they were. But we have another vav conversive, vav reversive setup here. It's ve hayu. So and they will be. And they will be. Vehayu. And they will be. Al-lev Aharon. Al-lev Aharon. Okay. Al. Ayin Lamed. Ayin Lamed. Al is upon, although some say near. Upon, and then we have a construct chain coming up. So far we had Vehayu, and they shall be upon Lev Aharon. Aharon is a name. The Lev of Aharon. Because that last word is a name, the whole chain will be definite. So we will say the Lev of Aharon. So kind of neat. We already had one kind of definite construct chain. We had Choshen HaMishpat. Choshen HaMishpat. Ha meaning the breastplate of justice or righteousness. I can't say it without thinking of righteousness because it reminds me of what Rabbi Shaul says about putting on the whole armor of God, right? He has the breastplate of righteousness. So I really think that that's kind of a nuance of Hamishpat coming over in the Jewish Greek there. So that one is definite because the last word has the definite article, ha-mishpat. Where we're at now in the verse is definite because it's a name, Aharon, that's Aaron. So Lev Aharon, we say the Lev of Aharon, the heart of Aaron. So the Urim and the Tumim will be upon Aaron's heart. Bevo, oh, bevo, oh. The verb is beit aleph. So bevo, and then the suffix is oh. So there's three words contracted in one here. We have the beit, which is the inseparable preposition, right? Usually it means in. It can mean all kinds of things. In, with, against, right? Like with, not like with a person usually, but by means of something, right? Like I hit him with a stick, right? You could use the bait there. The verb is actually, the full verb is beit vav aleph, bo. And this is what we call a hollow verb. When that second root letter is a yod or a vav, they oftentimes disappear, as it has here. And this should be fairly common to you if you know the liturgy at all, or you're used to singing at synagogue. Of course, there's the nice song, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, hallelujah. Right, so it's Baruch, blessed, is ha, the one who, ba, who comes. Baruch haba, which also is an idiom meaning welcome in Hebrew, right? Mabuhay, welcome. Baruch haba, blessed is the one who comes. So this is an infinitive form here, the infinitive construct, and the suffix is oh. It's a cholim vav, right, which means him or he. So literally, you can break these apart like this, these constructions. When you have a bait, sometimes you'll see a kaf, but you'll have a bait, and then you have infinitive construct of the verb, and then we have a suffix, right? Because it's in construct, it can take the suffix. So literally, it means b, in, vo, coming, like it's an infinitive. The idea of just coming in general, coming or arriving, of him, in his coming, in his arriving. Now we don't think that way in English, so you'll almost always translate this way. When we have a bait attached to an infinitive like this, we say when. And then the suffix at the end is going to tell you who would be the subject in English, right? So right now it's bevot, right? If it was some other suffix like nu, us, or cha, you, bevoacha, etc., then it would be you. But in this case, bevo, oh, in coming of him, we say when he comes, or when he arrives, or bo can also mean enter, when he enters. Okay? So let's back up to hatumim. Vehayu al leva haron. So they shall be upon the heart of Aaron. Bevo, when he enters, literally in entering of him. Lifnei Adonai, another construct chain. The breakdown is lamed, which is 2 or 4, and then panim means face. It's a strange word. It only exists in the plural, right? So when you're talking about my face, it's really my faces, like we have here. So panim, face or faces, you drop the mem. That's pene, face of, and then here we have the tetragramaton, the sacred, unpronounceable name of God, Yod-He, Waw-He. So before, so you could literally say le, to, and because it's construct from Adonai, we say the face of Hashem, the name. Now, almost always when you see lifnei, even though this is lamed attached to panim in the construct state, right? So lifnei, to, face of, this almost always means in the presence of, right? Like, or before, in the presence of or before, like you're before someone, you're in front of them. It can also mean before, like in time, like before such and such happened, just like in English. So I will just translate it that way. But it's nice, I think, for you to know the full breakdown, because for some people it makes it easier to memorize. When you see it, you can pick it apart. Oh yeah, that's to face of Adonai. And okay, you're like the face of him, the front of him, right? So before him, the front part. Lifnei Adonai, before Adonai. So v'hayu alei v'haron. This is talking about the urim and the tumim. V'hayu, and they shall be al, upon lei v'haron, the heart of Aaron. Bevo, oh, when he comes, when he enters, lifnei Adonai, to the presence of Adonai, or before Adonai. Panim, in and of itself, that word for face, it can also mean presence. Very famously, we have the lechem hapanim, the bread of the presence, right? Or the so-called shoe bread, if you're using Victorian Older English. Okay. You guys doing okay? It is auditory learning, but you can still, if you're in the premiere, you can still type a question or a comment or some insight you had. Please share it with us over in the live chat. I like to hear from you, and it also helps us with the algorithm. Also, if you're listening to this after the premiere, or perhaps before, if you have early access and you're listening before the premiere, please feel free to leave a comment down below. We would love to hear from you as well. So far, we have, in this long verse, starting at the beginning again, listen and try, if you can, to translate as much of it as you can before I tell you. All right? I won't be breaking it down as much this time. V'natato, from the verb natam. V'natato el choshen hamishpat. So you shall set unto the choshen hamishpat, the breastplate of justice. et. This is what's going to be set. Et האורים ואת התמים. That that's a vav, right? ואת התמים. והיו על לב אהרון. And they shall be al, upon lev Aharon, the heart of Aaron, Aaron's heart. Bevoo, bevoo, when he enters. Lifnei Adonai, before Adonai. Okay, continuing on. The last part of the verse. Ve nasa. Ve, that's a vav. Ve nasa. So the verb is nasa. Nun, sin, that's like a sheen, but the dot's on the left side. Sin, aleph. I'm describing this in case you're wondering. Some people are watching, but this is for those who are not looking at the screen or not looking at their Hebrew Bible. That's why I'm making sure to tell you that, for example, it's a sin and not a samech. It's an aleph and not an ayin, right? So nun, samech, aleph. If you recall, I was in the way that I remind people about this, think of NASA. NASA takes things into space, carries things up into space. Nasa is to carry or to lift up. Lifts things, NASA lifts things into space. Nasa, this is a third person masculine singular, perfect. So Nasa Aharon would mean Aaron carried or Aaron lifted. But the verb has that special vav, our flux capacitor, who changes aspect. You could think of it, Ibn Ezra says you could think of it as changing the time. Not exactly accurate, but I see why he says that for his Hebrew students. Why he said that. I says as if he's still with us today. Ve nasa Aharon. Now I feel like the vav here, it's not just a simple and. I'm going to say, so Aaron shall carry. Ve nasa Aharon. So Aaron shall carry. Et. That's the definite direct object marker. We don't translate. Now we have a big construct chain coming up. So be sure to fill in ofs in your mind. Mishpat b'nei Yisrael. Mishpat b'nei Yisrael. Now again, the last word is a name. Yisrael. So the entire chain will be definite, which usually means in English we try to put the word the before each word, and because it's a construct chain, we put of between each word. Okay? So mishpat, we know as justice. So v'nasa Aharon et, and Aaron shall carry, or so Aaron shall carry, mishpat b'nei Yisrael. The mishpat, the justice of b'nei, the children of Yisrael. Al, upon, libo, the lave of O, or the levav, it's probably levav, because there's a strong dogish in the bait. It's libo, the heart of O, his heart. Lifnei Adonai, before Adonai. Tamid, continuously. So let's do that last part again. After the etnachta. V'nasa Aharon. So Aaron shall carry et mishpat b'nei Yisrael, the justice of the children of Israel. Al, upon, libo, the levav of O, his heart. Lifnei Adonai, before Adonai, or to the presence of Adonai. Tamid, continuously. Let's go through the entire verse, and then I want to share a couple comments. If you're just chiming in, this is Exodus chapter 28, verse 30, with our directed Hebrew immersion, auditory learning style. V'natato el choshen hamishpat. And you shall place el, toward, choshen ha-mishpat, the choshen, the breastpiece of justice. Et, what are we going to place there? Et is telling you ha-urim, ha-urim, the urim, ve'et, and ha-tumim, and the tumim, ve'hayu, from the verb haya, ve'hayu, and they shall be al, leiv Aharon, al, leiv Aharon, upon Aaron's heart. Beva'o, from the verb bo, as in Baruch haba. Beva'o, beva'o, when he comes, or when he arrives. Lifnei Adonai, before Adonai. Venasa Aharon, so Aaron shall nasa, shall carry. Nun, sin, aleph. Et, we don't translate, but it's telling us what is he going to carry. And you notice it's an et because this is the definite direct object marker. It only comes before objects that are definite. That means objects that are names, objects that have the definite article, ha, or objects that have a suffix specifying that who the owner is, he, she, you, we, etc. And we have a big construct chain now, mishpat b'nei Yisrael. And because the last word in the chain, the word which is in what we call the absolute state, is definite, it's a name, the entire chain is definite. So that's why we need the et. That's why the nasa, Aharon, the verb nasa, is carrying. What's he carrying? If it just was like justice in general, and that was the only thing, we'd just say mishpat. We wouldn't have to say et mishpat, but it's definite. So we have to say, we must, just like up above in the verse, we had venatato, and you shall place, blah, 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 et ha-urim. Right? It's et because it's ha-urim. It's not just urim, it's ha-urim. Ve-et, and ha-tumim. Ha-tumim. Okay, here it's et mishpat b'nei Yisrael, or et mishpat b'nei Yisrael, the justice of the children of Israel. Now, you can interpret that nasa, interestingly here, metaphorically. He's bearing their justice, can hint about bearing their guilt. He's lifting up. When a king or a judge in ancient times would acquit someone who had been charged with a crime, the Hebrew idiom is to nasa et harosh, to lift up the head, right? So you can picture the judge, the person's looking down, they're humble, they're hoping, praying that they will be found innocent. The judge grabs their chin, touches their chin, and just kind of lifts up their head, like to meet his eyes. You don't have to be humble anymore. I see you're innocent. So there's definitely something in this, something deeper. And it's the abstract mishpat of justice here. Right? He's got the choshen ha-mishpat because he will bear the mishpat as the Kohen Hagadol, as the high priest. Remember, in Torah Hebrew, there's another word for the high priest, which can stand all by itself. Does anybody remember what that significant word is? One word. Hamashiach. Hamashiach, in context, can mean the high priest. So the writers of the apostolic writings, or whoever wrote the book of Hebrews, the letter to the Hebrews, surely had this in mind when he's talking about the high priest whom we have after the order of Melchizedek in the heavenlies, working propitiatory offerings. Think about the play on words to native Hebrew speakers back then. Hamashiach is HaMashiach. The Messiah is the high priest. And then he clarifies, not after this order, not after the order of Aaron, but after the order of an earlier priesthood, Melchizedek, to whom even Avraham Avinu gave tithes, gave his masa. Okay, continuing on. al-לבו, upon his heart. Lifnei Adonai tamid, tav, mem, yod, dalet. In ancient times, probably would have sounded like tamiv. Lifnei Adonai, before Adonai, tamid, continuously, perpetually. Now I want to read to you from a commentary by the Jewish scholar Nahum.M.Sarna. And oftentimes I'll quote from him. I'll just say Sarna. You might be used to hearing my Josh Oat talking about Sarna. He writes that the Urim and the Tumim is quite clear from the association with the breastpiece of decision and the instrument of decision that these two items constituted a device for determining the will of God. By the way, mishpat can also have the nuance of custom or tradition. Did you know that? In the Hebrew Bible, mishpat can mean custom or tradition. So you can see why oftentimes people, when they don't know the source of a mitzvah, the reason why we do it, like, is it from the Mishnah, this particular derivation or something? Someone might just say it's tradition. Well, that's possible to say in biblical Hebrew as it's mishpat. It's mishpat. You see? It's justice. It's tradition. It's the same word in the Hebrew, right? The tradition is not so excised and removed as some might think. Some of our Hebrew roots friends are fearful of tradition and even treat it as if it's evil, but this just betrays a lack of intimate knowledge with the Hebrew, because the words can be one and the same. Justice and tradition, how about that? Or custom. Continuing on with what Sarna writes, they were a device for determining the will of God in specific matters that were beyond human ability to decide. The reference in Numbers 27:21 spells this out. Quote, he shall present himself to Eleazar the priest, who shall on his behalf seek the decision of the Urim before Hashem. By such instruction they shall go out, and by such instruction they shall come in. This is about warfare. He and all the Israelites, the whole community. In 1 Samuel 28:6, it is told that Shaul inquired of Hashem, but Hashem did not answer him, either by dreams or by Urim or by prophets. And Ezra, chapter 2, verse 63, same as Nehemiah 7:65, reports that among those Jews who returned from the Babylonian exile, following the Cyrus declaration, were some who could not substantiate their claim to priestly genealogy. Right? It had been lost. They didn't have their papers. Came out of slaves. They were therefore forbidden to eat of the most holy offerings, quote, until a priest with Urim and Tumim should appear, through whose instrumentality a divine decision would be obtained. Okay? So let's go through one more time, and then we'll be finished. I'm only going to read it in Hebrew this time. You do your best to try to understand. Exodus chapter 28, verse 30. V'natato el choshen hamishpat et haorim ve'et hatumim ve'hayu al lev Aharon bevoo lifnei Adonai v'nasa Aharon et משפט בני ישראל על-לבו לפני אדוני תמיד. One more time at a more regular pace. ונתת אל חושן המשפט את האורים ואת התמים, והיו על לב אהרון בבואו לפני אדוני. ונשא אהרון את משפט בני ישראל, על-לבו לפני אדוני תמיד. Hope you guys had a good study. Look forward to studying with you tomorrow as we continue in the prophets, the book of 1 Kings. Shalom, shalom.